right, so we're going to do a couple more examples of factoring when a is less than 1. So if we're factoring this problem here, our a value is what's in front of the x squared, and in this case what's in front of the x squared is -3. So this is why a is less than 1. It's a negative number. So we're going to follow these steps right here. First step is to factor out the negative. We do not want a negative a value. So to get rid of it, we're going to factor out, take out a negative. Now remember, if you want to put a 1 there, go ahead, you can do that. So if we factor out, remember we're technically dividing, it's -3x squared divided by a negative, which is -1. The two negatives make +3x squared. If we factor out a negative from -x, the two negatives are going to turn into a +x. And if we factor out a negative from +2, that turns into -2. So step 1 is done. You first factor out the negative or the negative GCF. Then we're going to go factor this. This can be factored more. So this is just like a normal problem from last week where a is, if you cover up this, don't even worry about the negative, our new a value is 3 because we took out the negative. So we're factoring this. And to do this, since a is not 1, you need to go and multiply a times c. So we're going to bring this a value to the c. We're going to get rid of the a, bring down x squared, bring down plus x. And instead of -2, it's going to be a times the c. So 3 times -2 is -6. Step 2 is done. Step 3 is factor the new expression. Now we're going to factor this, which turns into, we're going to turn it into a multiplication problem. Remember, the first two terms that go here have to multiply to give me x squared. What multiplies to give me x squared? X times x. And the second terms have to multiply to give me -6, but add to give me, now there's no number there, so what's that automatic number? We don't see a 1. So let's figure out what multiplies to give me 6. 1 times 6 and 2 times 3. That's it. But it's -6, which means one of these factors has to have a negative. So you have to figure out which one is going to have the negative so that when you add them, you get +1. Well, let's talk about it. 1 plus 6 is 7. We don't want that. And 6 minus 1 is 5, and we don't want that. So this doesn't work. This one is 2 plus 3 is 5, or 3 minus 2 is 1. So this is what we're going to use. It's going to be 2 and 3. Do we want the negative to be on the 2? Or do we want the negative to be on the 3? So let's do it. -2 plus 3 is 1. And 2 plus -3 is -1. Do we want positive or negative? We want positive, right? The sign. And now don't look at this. We took out the negative, so it's not negative anymore. It's now a positive. So we want +1. So these are the ones we're going to use. So it's going to be -2 times 3 gives me the -6. And the -2 plus 3 gives me the one that we want in the middle. So the terms are going to be -2 and +3. We factored the new expression, which is the underlined blue part. Now we're going to go divide the second terms of the binomial. This is the binomial, because there's two terms. We're going to divide the second term right here, second terms, by the a value. Because we multiplied the a value in it first, we need to now go divide it out. So remember, our new a value is this. It's just +3. So we got to divide by 3, divide by 3. And you do that. Sorry, my emails. Divide by the a value. Now we're going to simplify the fraction. Well, 2 divided by 3 can't be simplified. So if it doesn't simplify, you drag the bottom of the fraction in front of the first term. So instead of being x, it's now going to be 3x. And it's going to be -2. And then this does simplify. X plus 3 divided by 3 is 1. So this whole thing in blue, what we're factoring, this factors to give me this. But this isn't my answer because remember, we factored out a negative. So you need to have that negative on the outside. And this would be your answer. Now remember, to check your work, you distribute out. And if you distribute everything and multiply it, it should end up, and then bring in the negative, distribute the negative, it should end up being that. So that's how you do it. Let's try another one. And my computer's probably going to go slow again. So remember, we're factoring when a is less than 1. This is different than last week. The only new step is you have to factor out a negative. So here our a value, we're labeling it, a is what's in front of the x squared, is negative 2. We don't want the negative, so the first step is to factor out the negative. So if we take out a negative from everything, negative 2 divided by negative, the two negatives make positive 2x squared, a positive 7x, and the negative, we factor out a negative, remember it's technically division, divided by negative 1, that gives me negative 7x. And then the negative 5 and the negative give me positive. If you need to put the 1 there, it's fine. You can put it on. You really are dividing by negative 1. And so step 1 is done. Now we're going to go factor. We're going to factor this. So to factor this is step 2. We're going to multiply a times c because a is not 1. If a is 1, you can just make it easy. First terms have to multiply to give first term, last terms have to multiply to give last, and add to give you the middle. But since this 2 is here, he ruins everything. So we need to go take this a value and multiply it by the c. So we're going to get rid of that a, and it's going to become x squared minus 7x. But instead of 5, remember, we're multiplying a times c. So it's going to be 2 times 5, which is positive 10. Step 2 is done. Then we're going to go and factor the new expression. So we need to factor him, which means turn it into a multiplication problem. First terms have to multiply to give me x squared, which is x times x. Last terms have to multiply to give me 10, and add to give me negative 7. So what multiplies to give me 10? 1 times 10, 2 times 5, and that's it. Out of these, which one adds or subtracts to give me 7? This guy, right? But it's negative 7. So which one's going to have the negative? Is it going to be negative 2 plus 5? Gives me 7. Is it going to be 2 plus negative 5? It's negative, gives me 7. So let's try these. Negative 2 plus 5 is 3. We want negative 7. 2 plus negative 5 is negative 3. That's still not what we want. So here, they both have to be negative, because negative 2 plus negative 5 is negative 7. So these are the terms we're going to use. And if you multiply them, negative 2 times negative 5, you get positive 10. So they're both negative. Negative 2, negative 5. So we factored the new expression. But now we need to go divide the second terms, which is here, the second term here, and the second term here, by the a value. Remember, we multiplied the a value in. Now, which by the way, our new a value here, it's not negative 2 anymore, it's positive 2, or a value is 2 for just the underlined part. So we need to go divide by 2. And remember, you simplify, you divide by 2, you simplify the fraction. Negative 2 divided by 2 turns into negative 1. But if they don't simplify, 2 does not go into 5 and can't be reduced, you drag, it says right here, if it doesn't simplify, drag the bottom of the fraction in front of the first term. So the bottom of the fraction is 2, and we're going to drag him in front of the x, so it becomes 2x minus 5. So this whole thing, this whole underlined part, 2x squared minus 7x plus 5, factors to give me here. But don't forget that we factored out the negative. So you need to have a negative in front of your answer. And that is my answer. I'm going to just show you to check your work real quick. You can distribute out. I think it's important to see why it relates and how it works. If you distribute x times 2x, you get 2x squared. If you distribute x times negative 5, you get negative 5x. Then you have to go and distribute the negative 1 to everything. Negative 1 times 2x is negative 2x. Negative 1 times negative 5, the two negatives make positive 5. You combine the middle terms to get 2x squared. Negative 5x minus 2x is negative 7x plus 5. So this part, we just distributed this. This turns into this, which is what we have here. But then you go and distribute that negative, which is here, to everything. So it's like the negative is on the outside of all of this. You have to distribute him in. And when you do that, becomes negative 2x squared, which is what we want. If you distribute the negative to the negative 7, two negatives give you positive 7, which is what we want. And then the negative and the positive give me the negative 5.